Hey guys, it's Kingdom Orange 2 here, and welcome back to my channel. We all know the Winx Club girls are the stars of the show, but we can't just forget about their evil counterparts who shake up their worlds and keep us viewers entertained. While some are truly better than others, for today's video I've selected 14 villains specifically from the TV show and ranked them based on their powerfulness, intimidation, and overall enjoyment to watch. So, with that being said, let's get this list started at number 14. Number 14 is Obscurum. So Obscurum is at the bottom of this list because he seemed to read more like a sidekick than a main villain. I know that season 8 was meant to skew more towards a younger audience and that Obscurum was meant to serve as a comic relief, but I didn't find him funny at all. Instead, he was really kind of annoying and acted more like a nuisance that got in the Winx's way rather than being a big threat. Number 13 is Berphilius and Kelshara. Much like Obscurum, Berphilius is supposed to serve as a comic relief and sidekick to the main villain of the season. He's definitely a fool, he's very annoying, and always sounds like he needs to blow his nose, but he isn't completely useless as he was able to steal a stone of memories and follow the Winx throughout their time-traveling adventures. Now, on the other hand, we have Kelshara, the brains of this operation. Her backstory is kind of weird, as I always thought it was strange that a 16-year-old fairy turned into a 40-year-old looking cheetah woman. And what annoys me about her is that instead of taking a more active role in the hunt for the fairy animals, she steps back and lets Berphilius do everything, which really never works out. This duo were such bad villains that when the Tricks were freed from the Legendarium world, not only did they easily overpower them, but stole all of their thunder. Number 12 is Cassandra and Chimera. While not huge villains in terms of storyline, they certainly caused a stir in Stella's homeworld of Solaria. Now, Cassandra and Chimera really weren't that powerful as they needed Valtor's help to accomplish their goals, but my heart has always had a soft spot for Chimera. I love her character design, I love that she was a fairy from another school, and I almost feel bad for her when she tells her mother that she'll always be Stella's stepsister and King Radius will always think she's better than her. But what makes me lose sympathy for her is besides the fact that she turns Stella into a frog monster, she's very rude, behaves like a complete brat, and has a hard time managing her emotions. And while I always hope that somehow I would see her again, it looks like for now she'll stay locked away with her mother in their jail cell. Number 11 is Acheron. Acheron could have been way better. He had an interesting backstory, he was threatening, and he was for sure very powerful. But Acheron suffers from having a really short storyline. He physically appeared only in one episode, and after being freed by Selena, he sends himself back inside the Legendarium, where Bloom ends up trapping him inside a box. That was it. What's really disappointing is that we were teased about his return all season, and when he finally appears, he gets defeated really easily. What should have been the final battle of season 6 was instead replaced by Bloom fighting against the Tricks, while the rest of the Winx were attacking some lizard spirit at Cloud Tower. Number 10 is Mandragora. Similar to Acheron, I would argue that Mandragora could have been way better. While I hate insects with a burning passion, I think the idea of being a witch of bugs is pretty cool. And while being just a minion to the ancestral witches, she is still able to carry her own. My issue though is not just with her, but with the movie The Secret of the Lost Kingdom in general. I feel like it introduced us not just to unnecessary plots, but also unnecessary characters, and Mandragora just happens to fall into that category. And while I'm not even sure why Mandragora was looking for Bloom in general, that will probably be a plot hole that I'll discuss in another video. Number 9 is Politia. If I ranked Politia just based on her appearance in season 5, she would probably be at the bottom of this list. Her presence in this season seemed to be like a last minute addition to the storyline and only made the overall plot more confusing and questionable. But if we fast forward to Mystery of the Abyss, Politia is definitely a force to be reckoned with. She is extremely smart, cunning, and displays immense amounts of power. My issue with Politia, though, is that I can't seem to really understand her role in the movie. It seems like the writers really needed a villain and just decided to add her into the story. I also don't really understand how she suddenly became so evil. We know that she was a bad friend to Daphne and got punished for it, but I always thought it was because she pulled a bad move, and not because she was truly wicked. Number 8 is Diaspro. At first, Diaspro is more of an anti-hero who just hates Bloom and wants Sky to herself. She doesn't become a true villain until season 3 when she uses the love potion on Sky, and later in season 6 when she tries to get Bloom thrown into the vortex of flames. And while I do enjoy seeing Diaspro on screen, she is really being overused. I did like how she finally teamed up with the Tricks in season 6, but the fact that after all these years she was still in her magic Winx form and how she just disappeared from the fight makes her look really pathetic. I'm also not really sure of Diaspro's intentions. Does she keep carrying on on because she really loves Sky, or did she just want to be Queen of Heraklion? If she really loves Sky, then it's time for her to move on, as he clearly doesn't feel the same way. But if she wanted to be queen, I can understand her frustration, but Diaspora is also a beautiful princess. It's not like she couldn't find another man. Number 7 is Tritanus. When season 5 first aired, I felt as if a lot of people hated on Tritanus for being whiny and bratty, and while I can agree that at times he was both of those things, that doesn't mean he wasn't a good villain. I really liked how he was our first antagonist to be related to a member of the Winx, and that he had quite strong motives, but while his destruction of the pillars in the Infinite Ocean did cause a ruckus in the magic dimension, I never found him to be that threatening. At the end of the day, Tritanus is just a merman. Although he can sort of come onto land and was seen flying in the season 5 trailer, he can't really do much. And besides, he's pretty weak, as the Winx came close to kicking his butt many times throughout the season. Just out of sheer luck and plot convenience, he was able to get away. Number 6 is Selena. Selena may be one of the youngest and most inexperienced villains to face the Winx, but what she lacks in power, she makes up for in deception, as she is constantly able to trick people into getting what she wants, such as making the Tricks believe she wanted to be their apprentice, or fooling the Winx into letting her into Althea's greenhouse. I will say that Selena does rely too heavily on her Legendarium, as not only do the monsters she summons get constantly defeated by the Winx, but when she uses just her magic, she is able to easily overpower Bloom and steal a portion of her Dragon's Flame. I do also want to point out that I think her backstory is pretty choppy. I appreciate the writers wanting to make her Bloom's childhood friend, but the execution was really horrible and just created a giant plot hole. Number 5 is the Ancestral Witches. Tharma, Belladonna, and Lilith. Arguably the older, but less hotter counterparts to the Tricks. While they were heavily feared at the start of the show, it wasn't until Secret of the Lost Kingdom that we finally got to see these 3 in action. And although I could argue that they were like the final bosses to the Winx in a video game, as it did take the power of both Bloom and her sister to initially defeat them, some aspects of this trio fall a little flat. I think what sets these girls back is that they are kind of disembodied spirits. While we aren't sure if their bodies were destroyed after they lost the battle with the Company of Light, or if they lost their bodies thousands of years ago, being ghosts really keeps them from doing much, as they rely heavily on the Tricks in the second movie. Number 4 is Lord Dargar. Lord Dargar, aka the Shadow Phoenix, could have been the best villain of the entire show. He had it all. He was creepy, he had an evil lair, he had an omnipresence that was terrifying, and he was super powerful, as his Shadow Fire was just as strong as Bloom's Dragon Flame. The thing about Dargar though is that he refuses to get his hands dirty. He sends the Tricks to steal the Codex, he uses a fake Avalon to kidnap Bloom, and orders his monsters to attack the Winx when they first arrive at his fortress. Besides this though, we don't see Dargar during the middle part of season 2, and he only ever directly fights the Winx in the last episode. In Dargar's defense, I truly think that he was ahead of his time, and I wish that his powers would have better been explored in future seasons of the show. Number 3 is the Wizards of the Black Circle. After earning their enchantix and freeing the people of Domino from the hands of the Ancestral Witches, the Winx were invincible. There was nothing they couldn't do, and there was nobody that could stop him. That is, until the Wizards of the Black Circle arrived. They were able to absorb the fairies' magic, so the Winx had to try harder and obtain Believix. The Wizards and the girls fought neck and neck, but the Winx were finally able to beat them with the help from the humans' beliefs. Now this was kind of my problem with the Wizards, as once the Winx defeated them in the mid-season finale, they took a step back to the Earth Fairies as the main villains. They did later play a part in almost destroying the Earth Fairies again, but they were nowhere as powerful and interesting as before. I would also point out that together the Wizards of the Black Circle are more entertaining than individually. It's kind of like Ogron was the Beyonce of the group, Dumon was the Kelly, and Gantlos and Anakin were the Michelles. Number 2 is the Tricks. The Tricks are the most famous and iconic villains from the show, as we have known these trio of witches all the way back from season 1. While initially only serving themselves, they usually become backup or henchmen to the main villain of each season. We love the Tricks, and Rainbow knows that we love to see them. But there lies the problem, as season after season the Tricks are constantly being thrown into the plot. Now I will argue that whenever the Tricks are introduced, the story suddenly becomes more interesting, but it's starting to get a little old. They have really overstayed their welcome, and should have been gone from the show once the Winx locked them in the Legendarium world. What's also kind of ridiculous is that after all these seasons, we only got one backstory about Icy, and since it retconned the fact that the Tricks were sisters, we still know nothing about Darcy and Stormy's past. So finally, at number 1, we have Valtor. This may have come at no surprise, but let's not forget as to why he tops this list. First of all, his tactics are smart. Valtor doesn't rely on or need help to get the job done. He has no problems taking what he wants and turning others into loyal minions and accomplices. And while Valtor may not be the most powerful villain, he was the most intimidating. The Winx really struggled to beat him as he posed a massive threat not just to them but the entire magic dimension. Valtor terrorized many worlds and stole their magic. He became so strong that even the headmasters of the schools of magics couldn't defeat him. It wasn't until finally Bloom extinguished his flame with her fairy dust that he was gone. I would even argue that Valtor was such a good villain that I can look past his presence in season 8 as well as his kind of confusing backstory. Ranking the Winx Club villains was no easy task, as sometimes deciding which villain to rank higher came down to personal preference, as many antagonists shared similar goals, missions, powers, etc. However, doing this all really gave me a new appreciation for the cartoon and has helped me come up with a couple more video ideas to touch on at a later time. If you liked this video today and want to see more content in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you guys so much for watching today, and I will see you soon. Bye!